Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and back by popular demand. And by popular, I mean John Coleman wanted him back for another episode. All the way from New American Funding, it is our friend, Kyle Johnson. Kyle, thank you for sticking around and recording episode 2.
Thanks for not kicking me out of the office.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I know you're hot and heavy trying to get to Disney Springs. Are you guys going to do some STK for dinner tonight?
I don't know. The plans are being made behind my back. I don't know what's going on. I just show up where the wife tells me to show up.
Yeah, for anyone who missed Kyle's first episode that dropped a few episodes back, Kyle lives in Michigan.
Yep.
By way, I'm going to get this right this time, of South Korea by way of Indiana.
There we go.
Indiana. Can you name one thing wrong about Indiana?
It's too vanilla.
I don't
it doesn't
think
take
you
a stance
can.
on anything. Yeah.
I don't think you can. I just figured this out. Indiana is like the Switzerland of the United States. They don't do anything wrong. They don't do anything bad. I can't imagine one person I've ever met from Indiana. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I can say that about people from Ohio.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh. Yeah.
I can too.
Yeah. Even Michigan.
Eh.
There's some good parts. Lots of good comes out of Michigan. Kid Rock, Eminem, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Miguel Cabrera, Matthew Stafford. Well,
you go.
no, he's in L.A. now. But, Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders, there you go.
Yeah, although I think he's from Oklahoma. But nonetheless, you know where I'm going. So his intro is Kyle Johnson with New American Funding.
There you go.
By way of Michigan, which is where you live now. By way of South Korea, which is where you once lived.
Correct.
By way of Indiana.
Which is where I unfortunately grew up. I mean, fortunately
Which is
grew
where
up.
well, we don't know, because it's kind of like, well, I'm just Indiana. Yes,
There you go, where I grew up.
Where you grew up.
There you go.
If anyone tuned in like really intently, I actually said Ohio before. And then off camera, Kyle's like, hey, by the way, it was Indiana. I'm like, shit, I knew that. I knew that. You should have called me out. I was like, I thought about calling you out, but he didn't, so he's too nice. No, because you're sticking around today.
Yeah.
And we're going to do like a bonus episode, just crank it out for 25 minutes. Because our episode went like 42 minutes.
Didn't even realize it. Felt like it was 15.
Yeah, literally, I thought 25.
There you go.
I thought, hey, let's go ahead and stretch this thing out. Let's make sure we hit 25. And then JC's like, nope, that was 42. Great episode, by the way, guys. Great episode. By the way, he always says that. Yeah.
You lied to me?
No, I think he genuinely thinks every episode's great.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. There's like a couple. We did this one like hour-long one with some attorney. And he kind of pulled me aside and said, hey. So he doesn't always is a strong word, but 250 some episodes, or I don't even know what we're at. Do you know what we're at, JC?
This is like 232 episodes.
This is somewhere like 235-ish episodes into it. Yes, JC does think most of them are really good. So today's episode,
Yes.
because we didn't go down this rabbit hole,
Right.
because I figured it would take too much time. I want to interview, what is it like to be a call center loan officer?
Good question.
You got your start working for the largest mortgage lender in America that is based out of Detroit, Michigan.
Yep.
Is it Detroit?
It is Detroit.
Out of Detroit, Michigan. They are always hiring.
Always hiring.
They are always advertising.
Always advertising.
They were once quick. Now they just blast off. You got that one, huh?
That was good.
But no, I haven't had an opportunity to sit down with many people who have had successful careers as call center loan officers.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because the audience is curious. What's it like? What's the good, the bad, the ugly? Why would someone want to make a career out of being a call center LO? What is that developmental aspect? Is it you jump right in, or is there a ramp up period? And what are the hours like? What type of compensation should you be anticipating? And is it something that some people are able to do for 10, 20, even 30 years?
Absolutely. All great questions. And I think what it comes down to is I'm actually in a lot of different Facebook groups to try to share my knowledge. And when people post questions, I see a lot of self-serving answers that come out, and I try to be like, hey,
The voice of reason?
the voice of reason in a lot of these. And anytime somebody asks that question, I always tell them only you can answer that.
Okay.
It's like, what do you want to get out of your first experience? Do you want a mentor who's going to be able to be there and hold your hand and really guide you on your first 5, 10, however many deals you have in a year, and be that one-on-one source of information? Or do you want the opportunity to have 100 at-bats a month and continue to just get your own practice and your own reps and all of that in? And because they're going to provide you with two different experiences. Fortunately for me,
Like depending on who the employer is?
yes.
Okay, so some employers less at bats but more hand holding. Some employers less hand holding but way more at bats.
Yeah.
Okay.
And unfortunately or fortunately for me, the decision was made for me by what was available. And I started with that call center, experience. And that's where I cut my teeth, was on dialing 200 times a day and
Outbound.
outbound dialing 200 times a day.
Leads that were sourced through the internet, leads that were sourced through TV ads, leads that were purchased
Any
through...
and all.
Okay.
Any and all. It
But-
depends.
But they supplied you with the leads.
Correct.
Did they put a headset on you and load it up into a system like a phone burner where you could click button and not get mortgage, but click button and make call?
No click button. Phone just continually rings.
For you.
Yes.
So on the screen, it would pop up. You're calling Mr. Torres. You're calling Mrs. Smith. Wow.
200, 300 times a day in hopes of getting 20 to 30 people on the phone.
Would
and then
you leave your own voicemail or did it auto drop a voicemail?
I left a voicemail, a text, and a email for every single one of them. Not a text, because unless they had the TCPA acknowledged.
But an email, would the email go out automatically on your behalf? Or you would have to, I'm assuming you had like the same email template and it was more of like copy paste or
get it out.
What I love, anyone who uses Outlook, here's a tip, trick, or hack. You can have individual email signatures. Yeah, so you just have your same 7 or 8 signatures and just pick the drop down for the right signature.
Or quick parts, another way to use it.
Quick parts.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah.
Okay. And you worked for how long as a call center LO?
Across both companies that I've worked in a call center, about 2 years.
Okay. How many loans do you think you closed in your first year?
Oh my God. In my first year, how many loans did I close? I was doing 25, 30 a month.
Closing 25 to 30 a month.
Yeah. Well, I'd say about 85 to 90% of the loans that I got into the pipeline as a refinance specialist at the place were closing. So
Okay.
maybe a little bit less, 20 to 25 loans a month.
And if you ever want to know the place, just LinkedIn Kyle Johnson.
My resume's there.
It'll be there. So the phone was ringing for you, but they weren't inbound calls; they're outbound calls. That's a harder sell.
It is.
Where you're trying to convince someone that, hey, I can maybe save you money on a refinance.
It
Would
is.
you want to talk to me?
The only, well, that's not even saving grace. That was what I was doing as a new development banker when I was first learning the ropes. But then once I graduated to being a senior loan officer there, I was on a specialty team that was a client retention team.
Okay.
So I was calling people who are already mad at us and in process with another lender and trying to recapture the business.
Nice. That obviously means to me you must have stood out early on.
I hope so.
Yeah. What type of training was provided to you?
A lot.
A lot.
Like
of training. Mandatory training?
A lot of mandatory training before you're allowed to really do anything.
Weeks, days, months?
Well, if we're going to go way back to the beginning, there was an entire month of just safe preparation, just NMLS training.
Okay.
And
so
then,
did the company you start with, did you have to go get your NMLS certification on your own, or did they help you all the way through?
All the way through. Start
Okay,
to finish.
so you're able to show up. You have your college degree. You have your background in education, which that's what you did. You were an educator, degree in musical theater. And they're like, you interviewed, they liked you, they saw talent, and like, cool, we're going to onboard you. We know you're not licensed, but we will get you licensed.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's a win for some people.
It is.
That's a huge win for some people.
What I say to a lot of the people who are seeking guidance, I say, hey, this is like, you'll hear a lot of people who give you a flat out never, never, never do A, B, or C. And it's not that simple of an equation, because you have to look at the cost benefit analysis. Like, is it worth it for me to get all this training and get all these at bats early on compared to just not really being thrown to the wolves is probably a little bit too extreme, but trying to really do it from scratch. If I don't have a really solid sphere of influence, then yeah, it's definitely worth that. So,
well, and I mean, the reason why these cliches are around is because there's some truth behind them.
Yeah.
And the cliche of, it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish or how you finish. Like, yes. Yeah, that's true. Like, you're going to go on this journey. The journey's called your career as a mortgage professional. And early on, we don't know if you're going to be a badass LO, a processor, an underwriter, maybe one day a CEO, maybe you end up running capital markets.
there you go.
You don't know it. I don't know it. No one else knows it. But you have to start somewhere.
Exactly.
And you have to get exposure. You have to be in the room where it happens, be invited to the table, And then obviously you have to try hard and you have to have ability and aptitude and drive. But you never know where where your career is going to go. I mean, the CEO of the company I represent, so I represent Waterstone Mortgage. When I'm not with John Coleman and we're not doing TLOP, I am representing Waterstone Mortgage as one of their regional vice presidents. Our CEO started as a call center LO.
There you go.
Now, he thought he got the fancy job when he moved to Manhattan and started working on Wall Street as like a bond analyst. But as a bond analyst, he saw what mortgage loan originators were making back in his home state of Minnesota. And he was like, screw this.
I'm heading back.
Yeah, I don't want the fancy title on Wall Street. I'm move back there and I can make triple the money.
Exactly.
But he started as a call center LO. And where is he today? Well, he runs a top 100 independent mortgage maker.
There you go.
Like, that's pretty awesome
Yeah.
for someone who started as a call center. I'm sure when he was 23 years old, that was not his
Not
thought.
on his radar. Yeah.
His on his radar was not running. And by the way, we don't do any call center direct to consumer.
Right.
So you don't talk like a full
Full circle.
Yeah, a full circle.
Full line to go the opposite direction.
Well, you mentioned them, and I'm gonna forget to ask. So I want to ask them now.
Yeah.
Can you shout out some of those Facebook groups? You said
Oh,
that you're an
gosh.
active participant.
New loan officer group is one of them.
Okay.
I think that's the one that catches my attention the most often because they're very active. And a lot of really great voices in there, and then some other distracting voices. But that's probably the biggest one that
Okay.
I'm most active in. And a lot of people posting questions and
Yeah,
not the best answers sometimes.
correct. It's funny. You and I are probably very similar. I bet we have Facebook accounts, but I'm only active because my wife does a great job of tagging me, and I'll ask her to tag me because I do like the memories when they pop up, and I definitely get on Facebook every day to check out what's going on. And right now, my new thing is I'm just like unfollowing so many people. I'm like, look, I don't want to not be your friend on Facebook. I just want to not quit. I want to quit seeing your stuff. But the only Facebook groups that I really know of, there's a couple that I'm a part of locally in the Orlando market. And same thing, like I feel like I have to mute them because it's more disinformation than ever is good information. But Rocky, who is a friend of the show, he has his MLO study buddy. Let's pass the NMLS group.
Loved the episode with him.
And I will promote that group, and I do try to hop in to both their current group and their subgroup just to contribute, just as a contributor. And even in that, I see what the advice are given. I'm like, oh no, don't say that, or oh no, don't do that. But back on your advice, because I wanted to do this whole episode on your journey and your story. You closed over 100 loans your first 12 months in the mortgage business.
Yeah.
Mostly refis.
All refis.
All refis.
All refi.
But were they full documentation? Like, were you having to document income, document assets, order appraisals?
We're pretty aggressively too. That first that ERLA, that 1003 phone call, I wasn't getting off the phone without documents in my inbox.
Were you trained that way?
Yes.
So you were trained.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get on the phone, and once I get someone on the phone who's interested, I need to get it closed.
You're either hanging up on me or I'm getting your documents back.
Yeah, but I bet that's a great experience.
Yeah.
I bet you learned how to build rapport. You learned how to be yourself, but at the same time, be persistent.
Yeah.
With the end goal.
I think one of the things, and this is advice I wish I'd come into my head earlier when we recorded the previous one, is that people a lot of times early in career are afraid to ask because they think they're being obtrusive or that they're being too annoying. But no, they're asking you for $400,000. Ask for their income documents, right? It's not too big of an ask, and a lot of times people don't realize that the one of two things is going to happen. They'll say no, and you'll know how you need to address it further, or they'll say yes, and you just got a conversion in 30 minutes rather than 2 weeks.
Correct. Something that I try to remind any loan officer that's willing to listen to me is, for the most part, I don't think you're looking for a new friend. You're not looking for a new girlfriend, a new spouse, a new parent, right? You're looking for business. Yeah. You're trying to build a business relationship. You can do it and still be jovial and polite and professional, but you're not looking for someone to be your friend. You're looking for them to conduct business with you.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for the loan officers that are self-sourced and they're going out and they're meeting with realtors. I've had loan officers come into this business and crash. They crash, they burn, they're out. And like, oh, it's so hard. I'm like, well, A, you didn't go on enough calls, period, end of story. Like, if you're a self-sourced LO, I love this correlation with having you on the other side of the camera. I'm telling loan officers today, It's 100 outbound calls a week if you want to make it.
Yeah.
You would laugh because you made 300 outbound calls a day in order to just cut your teeth in the industry.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get the self-source LOs to do 100 a week, and they're not. But then those that make some calls, because look, 30 is better than 15, which is better than 0.
Yeah.
And they go and they have the good enough meeting with the builder, the realtor, the CPA, the financial advisor. And I'm like, oh, how many leads did you get? Oh, I'm like, you didn't ask for a lead? You drove across town, you bought them a Starbucks, and you didn't ask for a lead? I'm like, what are you trying to do? Get them to date you? Like, you're there for business. And by the way, the worst thing they would have told you is
No,
it was a no before you asked.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but you learned that, and it's funny, you got to learn it a different way. You didn't learn it calling on realtors to try to get them to refer you business. You learned it trying to get a consumer who you already had on the hook.
Yeah.
You're trying to reel them in. You're like, hey, and it's like matter of the fact, I'm guessing. Hey, by the way, the next step is I need you to go ahead and send me your income documents, your asset documents. I bet right now you can log in to your ADP and get your username, your password. Let me walk you through what button to click. This is where you find your W-2. This is where you find your pay stub, right? That's probably what you walked them through.
I looked it up the other day because I was just interested. I think it's something ridiculous. Like 1 in 7 people have their payroll done through ADP. So it's no longer like viable for someone to be like, no, I don't have access to that. I'm like, I don't believe you.
Yeah, or you all, especially where you were, a very tech-forward company, you're probably trying to utilize as much D1C, Finicity,
that
work number.
Yeah.
Finicity is a great way to document assets without having to actually get bank statements.
Yeah.
The work number is a great way to document income without having to get bank statements. There's other technologies out there, but when you have them on the phone, I know from talking to the reps over at Fannie Mae, your previous employer, they would say they do it the best because they do it with the borrower on the phone on the first phone call.
Yeah.
Like that's how Fannie Mae was talking about your previous employer at national conferences to companies like ours where we're like, gosh, we can't get adoption. We can't get our borrowers and our loan officers and our processors. And they're like, well, the people who do it really well tend to be call center. They tend to already have the person on the phone, and they don't let them off the phone until they've walked them through the steps and the processes to give us access to order their income and their asset
significant
verification.
buy-in.
Yeah.
It's a significant buy-in when you get someone to do that on that first phone call, and then it's not. I personally don't think it's a difficult process to do that. But borrowers who have their lives going on, they got kids' soccer to get to, they got all these different things. They're not going to want to upload documents for someone else when I just did that for Kyle.
Yeah.
So it's I call it speed to close.
Well, I don't understand on purpose. That's a fantastic sales nugget. Like you want someone bought into you.
Yeah.
Get their documents because they don't want to do it again. They don't. That applies for all loan officers, regardless of if it's a refi or purchase, a call center, or self-sourced. He or she who is the first to pull credit and access income and asset docs, you already have asked that person to jump over at least one hurdle and through one hoop. Do they really want to go do it again, or do they want to, like you said, get to soccer? I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to this number, like 300 phone calls, and you closed well over 100 transactions. What were your hours like?
My hours would not be indicative of what the typical person would be. On that specialty team, I had a pretty taskmastery type of leadership structure.
How about before, in the very beginning?
At the very beginning?
The very beginning.
Very beginning when I was this is partially my motivation because I like to be an expert at everything that I do, and I push myself. So my hours were usually probably 7:30 in the office just to get ready for the phones to turn on at 8. And then I would be out by 6:30, 7 at night usually.
10-hour days.
Yeah. And that was
5 days a week plus Saturday?
2 Saturdays a month.
2 Saturdays a month. Full Saturdays or just 4 hours?
4 hours.
Mandatory or by choice?
Mandatory. Sundays are greatly encouraged.
Okay.
So.
Wow. Did they pay you per lock, per funded loan, per application? What's a typical, and don't tell me what your comp was. What's a typical comp package like for someone who is going to go work in that
It's
particular
going to be a little model? bit, technically it's different refi versus purchase
Okay.
because it is based on getting something into process. So on refi, I can get you into process the first day I meet you. As long as I get those documents back, I can get you submitted, preferably locked. But on purchase, you got to nurture that relationship just like any other purchase agent. So it's a little bit more of a lift naturally. But it's typically going to be paid per file that is sent into process.
Sent to process. So are you graded on your pull
Yes.
through and like how many actually close?
Yes.
You are. Okay.
Under 85%, you can start getting dinged.
Okay. So they need you scrubbing the file, knowing what to look for.
Absolutely.
Not turning in garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Garbage in, garbage out. So you don't want to turn in garbage.
Correct.
You don't want loans getting denied. That's
Correct.
that's still a bad thing.
Because that's going to ding you.
Okay.
And then you can get put on letter. Obviously, you can get put on a PIP if you're
Yep.
continually not, if your pull through is poor.
Production improvement plan, by the way,
Yeah.
for my non-HR people. That is what a PIP is.
There you go. Sorry.
But okay, it's interesting. But the hours is good to know. It's 10 hours. It's 10-hour days, and that's
Yeah.
pretty standard.
I would say.
Yeah.
Gratefully, fortunately, where I am now, nothing like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It-
My experience.
like nothing like
once-
that mandated. Is it afforded, or is it no? We need you only working 40 hours a week because we don't want to be paying you overtime.
No,
and we want
it's-
you to have good work-life balance.
I always describe it when I talk to people who ask why I am where I am now. Was the experience previous trying to leave at 9 o'clock at night and being asked why I'm leaving
You slacker.
and saying, "Oh, part-time, huh? You part-timer?" Like, dude, I wrote 3 loans today.
Yeah.
Well, where's your 4th?
Oh. Okay.
That's what it was before,
Yeah.
right? Now, if I'm at my desk past 6 o'clock, my sales manager's yelling at me.
yeah.
It's like, dude, go home, see your family,
Yeah.
right? And so it's a much better culture and much better lifestyle.
Are most inbound or even outbound, because you started outbound, but what I call it consumer direct. To me, it's
Yeah.
a consumer direct. Some people call it call center, but I like consumer direct. It sounds better. Workstation over cubicle sounds better. Vaseline over petroleum jelly. Just who wants to put
Same thing.
Who wants to put oil jelly
Not me.
anywhere on their body?
Not me.
Yeah, but I'll put Vaseline on it.
Oh, yeah.
wherever it goes. But is it mostly from a comp standpoint, hourly or salary plus a per file bonus? Or are you paid on volume, paid on units? Because you're not paid on closings. Like in my world, I'm paid on closings.
Right.
And I'm paid on volume. Usually I'm paid on volume and I'm paid on closing. So it doesn't matter how many apps, how many locks, how many disclosed loans. None of that matters. What matters to my manager is what was your volume? And then obviously they want to know product mix. They want to know pricing shortages.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're constantly giving a discount in order to bring loans in the door, we appreciate your volume, but it's all not profitable.
Right.
Right. So like my managers want to make sure that not only do we have volume, but it's priced competitive, but also profitable.
Right.
And they love product mix because I know that certain products bring different revenue to mortgage companies. Right. So you may make less money on a brokered loan to Advantial, but more money on a VA loan that you fund yourself.
Right.
So like your matrix, when you're in the consumer direct call center, back on the comp, what is there a base salary typically?
I think what it comes down to is a question of scale, because it depends on the size and the market and all of those different features. Whereas some of them might be a base salary, and some of them might say it's a base salary, and it might end up being a draw. It depends, right?
So there's no like standard across the board?
No.
Okay.
And subsequent to that, I don't want to get into too many specifics
Yes.
about, obviously with NAF, but subsequent to that is then the funding side of it, right? So you'll have your base salary, and then depending on where you are, there will be BIPs attached to the closings.
Okay.
Not at the previous place.
Not the previous
Not
place.
at the previous place. That's just a per file. Like, hey, here's your target for the month. If you
Okay.
hit goal, that's your bonus.
Okay.
And then it prorates both directions.
Gotcha. So
So if you exceed a certain amount of your goal,
So
per
I may be
file.
able to slide in. They're like, hey, we're gonna pay you $20 an hour, and you get $500 if you submit 10 loans. You get $750 bonus if you submit 15 loans, and you get a $1,000 bonus if you submit 20 loans. And if I did the math, I'm like, okay, at $20 an hour, it's $42,000 a year. Plus, I can make an extra $1,000 a month. Okay, so I'm making $55,000 a year. Like whatever, and the numbers obviously, it could have been $3,000 if you submitted 10, and $5,000 if you submitted 15, and $10,000 if you submitted 20.
That is an accurate depiction of what the call center typically would look like.
Okay, but there was a way for someone to go in there and make $100,000 to $150,000 a year.
Yeah,
doing mortgages for a living.
Absolutely.
Like that was very possible. And
there are a lot of call centers that are going to be more structured, I guess, what a typical self-gen person would be used to seeing, where you will have that base, but then you will also have your funding, your BIPs, and then in addition to that, you could have bonus tiers.
Okay.
So
for doing more volume, more units. Yeah.
However many closings you have a month, we'll put you into a specific tier, and then that will be on top of your.
Yeah, like I think of bank loan officers, and I think of builder loan officers. Like a builder loan officer may very well do 50, 60 million, and they'll make 140 grand, which is phenomenal income. But my friends in the over at Guild Mortgage or Cross Country Mortgage, if they did 40 or 50 million, they made 400 or 500 grand.
Yeah.
And the difference is, well, they did 40, 50 million and it was self-sourced. The builder's loan officer, they were capturing and closing the business from the people who were coming into the sales center to buy in the new community.
Yeah.
So when I'm coaching younger professionals, I'm like, look, like we talked about either last episode or this episode, the journey. There's never a bad place to start.
Right.
And you can make a substantial living. Like when I think of $115,000 or $145,000 a year, that's more than cops, teachers, principals, firefighters, most engineers.
For talking to people.
Almost every nurse. Like, it's a hell of an income, and especially if it's a job that you're able to do closer to 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Now, car salespeople, phenomenal income opportunities. Those hours are terrible. Those hours are terrible. That's why a lot of car people are finding their way into the mortgage industry, like especially the top producers.
It's one of the things that I like that you mentioned that, because we talked briefly off air about my father also being in sales, completely different industry, but he does insurance.
Okay.
And so two very non-tangible sales things, where a car salesman can show you the leather seats, they can show you the wonderful dash, you can feel the steering wheel, and we have to sell an image of the future for our borrowers. And so it's just one of those things that I think is really important to key in on as well, especially when all you have is a headset connection. Like, they don't get to meet me when I'm working in a call center. I have to really sell them on who I am as a person and on why working with me is going to be better than working with someone down the street. So,
what'd you like best about being a loan officer? Because now, for those that maybe missed the first episode, at this point, Kyle trains loan officers.
Yeah.
Right? Or wannabe loan officers. People are getting their start in the mortgage industry. You were able to enter. You obviously kicked ass. You took names. You cranked out a ton of loans. You worked a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Became good, right? We know you became good because you were promoted. If anyone's ever going to be on the client retention team, just know you're good. Just know that person is good because someone recognized that I need my best talking to the most upset people.
Yeah.
So like that already, it didn't shock me, but I was like, oh yeah, this dude was good. That to me is clout. But when you go back and you compare what you do now, which I'm sure is fulfilling in many ways because you're shaping the future of the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
But when you're helping borrowers, what do you miss about that?
I'm a people person.
Okay.
I love, like, a lot of people think of putting on a headset and dialing 300 times a day as this horrible mountain. I look at it, I'm like, that's 300 opportunities to meet someone. I don't know if I'm just a glutton for punishment, but I do miss, like, just meeting people and getting to learn about their life experiences. That's the thing that I would say I miss the most.
How many of the 300 calls a day, how many people are like outright rude to you?
Well,
Like
of the 300 calls, I'd say probably only 25 to 30% picked up the phone.
Okay.
So of those people, just outright rude, just kick me straight in the teeth. Half of them.
That many?
Yeah.
My wife, if you're listening, I'm never mean to people, but I'm a jokester, right?
Yeah.
I like to have fun. And if you're going to be willing to call me at 7 p.m. at my house and I don't know who you are and why you're calling, then sometimes I like to have fun.
Yeah.
Some people appreciate it and they have fun back with me. Some people, don't like it and they hang up right away. And usually it's the person in Nigeria who's trying to tell me that I just won some jackpot or my uncle left me a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But my wife, and she's my rock, and she's every reason why I'm still alive at 43 years of age and I'm of somewhat success. Because without her, I would have been totally off the rails several times. And there's no way I would have survived every time I went off the rails. But she'll remind me, she's like, honey, that person's just trying to do their job. They're just trying to do their job. I'm like, they're trying to sell me something. So I'm just curious. So like I can go back and tell her at dinner tonight, I'm like, hey, by the way, my friend Kyle says half the people are like me. The other half are like you.
Well, the way I like looking at it, and I don't know, I think I got this quote from Ted Lasso. But
love that show, by the way.
I ask all my trainees now, I say, like, what is the happiest animal on the planet? And they're like, a puppy. And they throw out all these other answers. I'm like, no, it's a goldfish. 10-second memory.
Yeah.
Because I can get kicked in the teeth 100 times a day and it doesn't affect me at all. I'm just that person's having a worse day than I am. Click, dial the next one.
What did you find to be difficult about the mortgage industry that you just didn't, or about being a loan originator working in a call center doing direct to consumer? What did you find like what could you have wished you could have paid someone to do for you because you just didn't like that part of the job?
I'm a bleeding heart. I don't like giving people bad news.
Okay.
And there's a lot of times I've had to, especially on the refinance side, people are in tough spots. And I don't like having to be the one who tells them, no, there's no way out.
I once had a very successful title rep try to transition into the mortgage industry. And we loved hiring him because every realtor in Central Florida loves this dude.
Yeah.
He came in and crushed it in terms of bringing in business and closing loans. He hated every minute of it. And I remember sitting down with him. His name was Michael. Shout out to Michael. I said, what gives? It was bothering him, like tears welling up, bothering him. He's like, I can't tell people no. I'm like, well, Michael, they have a 520 credit score, or their DTI is 75. Like he's like, and I realized that in the title industry, he never had to tell people no. All he had to do was take care of his people. Right. Michael loves taking care of people. So he thought he wanted to have the title business. Luckily for him, we gave him an opportunity to become successful in the mortgage after 6 months. He said, the money is great. The people are amazing that I work with, but I do not like telling people no. I thought you were going to maybe answer my question with something along the line from a technical perspective. Like, ooh, yeah, you know what? I suck at math and I realized that this takes a lot of math, or I don't like to problem solve. And I realized that my job as a mortgage loan originator is to put together a puzzle, and people are messy. So now am I putting together a puzzle? I'm putting together like a 10,000 piece puzzle.
And they've blacked out and redacted some of the
Yes.
pieces. And
Yeah, but none of that bothered you.
No.
Were you, and I don't know this, so as a call center loan originator, are you involved? Like, how detailed are you getting in your pre-approvals and scrubbing the file before you push it on? Like, are you on average, not maybe necessarily you, Kyle Johnson, but are you a 7 out of 10? Like, hey, we're 7 out of 10, but there's definitely things we miss. Or no, we're trained to think like underwriters, and we better turn in a file that's ironclad.
Again, I'm going to say that's going to be company specific.
Okay.
Because previously, definitely not a 7 out of 10, but now I am clean closable loans is my motto now, especially for all my trainees. Everything needs to be buttoned up, and I want that to slide immediately through processing and not give anybody a headache.
So as a trainer, you all are I-dotting, T-crossing. Yes. You have data integrity. You're verifying income. You're verifying assets, and you're looking for for potholes.
Yeah.
Pitfalls and potholes. I get those confused.
Our PAs will handle most of the verifications.
Okay.
But I make sure that like every single one of my loan officers understand that that's still within my purview, right? Like the borrower knows you and has communicated with you. So you're CC'd on all these communications. You better be reaching out and making sure that they understand what's going on, why it's being asked, and be on top of it. Even though someone else is handling it, you still need to be quarterbacking it.
Yeah, so we know where you work now, and we've alluded to where you worked previously. But like, I'll throw this out there just for comparison purposes. There's a .comer out there. Don't know if they're best, better, or average, but they're out there.
Yeah.
And they keep on making the news for layoffs, though. Like really ugly layoffs. I mean, layoffs are layoffs, and they happen.
Yeah.
But man, this poor company. Whew. But anyhow, I actually have many listeners who tune in from there.
Yeah.
So I've become friends with people who tune into the show, and I just natural curiosity. And the person I talked to who worked at that organization, he shared with me he was paid on locks.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. He goes, yeah, I get my salary plus I get paid to lock a loan in. And I'm like, but what if it doesn't qualify? Like, it just baffled me in my world because I only get paid when a loan closes.
Well, it reminds me of a running joke that I have with some of my trainers. It's like, what do I have if I've got a locked loan with no documents? Not a loan.
Yeah.
Is the punchline. So like that just, yeah, exactly. That just getting paid on locks
Yeah.
to
But-
me could foster bad behavior.
But yes. Oh, and no, that was detrimental for the consumers, detrimental for the
Everyone.
real estate community, especially from the purchase side of things.
Yeah.
And I would guess in a call center platform, do you tend to start newer people out on refis and then shift them to purchase once they've established themselves? Or like, how do you differentiate who's refi, who's purchase?
It's going to be market specific, what market demand is.
Okay.
Right now, obviously, there's not a great clamoring for refinances. So pretty much everybody's going through the purchase side. And I always say that just means you're cross-trained.
Yes.
So
No, 100%. Like, I always think if I ran a call center mortgage company, for me, my strongest players would be on the purchase side. And then my newer players, those are still working on strengthening their skill set, I could go on refi because you can't really screw up a refi. I mean, 99 times out of 100, if I had to deny a refi, someone's not homeless. Someone's
Right.
not out $5,000 or $10,000. Yeah, I'm not impacting a seller or a realtor from getting their commission.
correct.
But if I start screwing up purchases that have contractual closing dates and these large escrow deposits, at that point, I can't have my newer people who are still cutting their teeth.
It's not even missing a closing or just pushing it back even a couple of days when you got somebody who's got their entire life on a moving truck and living out of a hotel and they needed all that money to cover their closing. It's rough to make those mistakes on the purchase side.
How many months did it take you to start feeling comfortable with being a loan officer?
I think not that many. And I think it's because, and I've told you my story offline about being an umpire and seeing pitches.
Yes.
Which I might, maybe if we've got time, I can share. But getting as many at bats as I had up front was incredibly beneficial to me becoming the loan officer that I am.
And I think that's a huge takeaway for people who've tuned in this long.
Yeah.
It is about at-bats.
Yeah.
It is Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule. I mean,
Right.
it is, you just have to get out there and swing.
Exactly.
You have to just step on stage and deliver,
I
and get better. No, it's because your answer. I'm answering it with you probably 91 days, because within 91 days you already apped and disclosed well over 70, 80 files.
Mm-hmm.
It was, we have a loan partner in our office who within a year had way more experience than loan officers who had worked for us for 3 years.
Right.
Why did a loan partner who is basically a junior loan officer have more experience? I'll give Cam all the kudos in the world. She has a very high aptitude and a great attitude.
Mm-hmm.
But she worked for one of our top producing loan officers. They closed 15, 20 loans a month.
Yeah.
So that means she was assisting 60 pre-approvals and 20 apps and 20 closings.
Right.
So her first year, she got to assist on 200 closings. A loan officer, even if they're good and they're closing 4 or 5 self-sourced deals a month, when they're 3 years into the industry, they've only done 75.
Right.
She did double that in her
In the
first
first
year.
year, yeah.
Yeah. So for you got good quick because you put yourself in a situation that allowed
Yeah.
you to get a lot of at-bats.
Yeah, there's a oh gosh, I'm gonna kill myself for not remembering the name of the guy who does this TED Talk, but he talks about growth rings and the rings of discomfort and how discomfort is what makes you grow. And there's only a couple complexity triggers that you can have that will push you, and one of them is that self trigger. Put yourself into discomfort and complexity to force yourself to grow, and that was the only option that I had, was to jump right in and make 300 dials a day.
When people don't make it as a call center LO, what are the 1 or 2 major themes that you've recognized? Like, yep, they're not going to make it. Or when they left in their exit interview, they're like, I didn't like X, Y, or Z. What part of it did they say, this is not for me?
I think there's no getting around the fact that a lot of excuses. I didn't do this because, I didn't do that because. And typically to me, it just comes down to talk time. My phone was off because I had to do this. My phone was off because I had to do that. If you can't just keep your phone on and talk to people, you're not going to get the at-bats that you need to be successful in a call center. So, or consumer direct, we've decided.
Consumer direct, we're calling it,
Yeah.
yes. Direct to consumer, consumer direct, all one and the
All,
same.
yeah.
Tomato, tomato, Vaseline, petroleum jelly.
Exactly.
Final parting shots, advice. Someone's listened this far, and they're like, yep, I want to do it, right? And honestly, I don't care if you call better.com, and I don't care if you call Rocket or if you call yourself NAF. I love New American Funding.
I do too. It's,
I
it's
love
probably
that
just
name.
internal nomenclature. Right?
Okay, yeah.
New American Funding.
Yeah, NAF, New American. And I guess because there's slang, and a NAF is a non-athletic.
Okay, there we go.
And so when I
That's
hear
why
NAF,
you hear it. You're, okay, gotcha.
yeah,
gotcha.
I think of being bullied in high school and someone calling me a NAF.
Got it.
Yeah, so I like New American
Forever and
Funding.
always, it will be New American Funding.
Yeah,
So there we go.
AF. There we go. Always and forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love you, AF. Always and forever.
There we go.
Yeah. But yeah, New Americans. But yeah, I think Loan Depot has them. I think there's like 6 to 10 solid-ish. Some are better than others. That's life,
Yeah.
right? Can't all be halves. The world has to be haves and have-nots.
Yep.
We can't all be great. If we all were great, then we wouldn't have average.
Exactly.
Great would be average. So, but starting as a consumer direct loan officer is a great start. It's a great career.
Mm-hmm.
It's both. But what advice would you have for someone who's listened this far? Like, I want to follow in that dude's path.
Mm-hmm.
What are the words of wisdom? You have like 30 seconds to like, hey, all right, kid, you're going to follow my path. You need to. I mean, I just heard you don't make excuses and get lots of talk time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything besides that?
Yeah, I think part of it is understanding that it is a tool to get what you need. And so the people who are truly successful, who do position themselves to be happy in life, are the ones who understand that this is an incredible opportunity to increase their sphere of influence. And if you're able to take on leads from a call center and then build out your referral network by doing it, that's going to help set you apart and then put you more in the driver's seat. And you don't even necessarily need to leave companies. You could stay within whatever consumer direct company that you're in and just build that referral network out and be in control of your own destiny.
Oh, I love that. Use the phones so that you never
Have to rely on them or use them again.
Yeah,
Right.
use the phones for as long as you need to. You don't necessarily have to change companies, especially if you find a company you love. Like
Yeah.
it sounds like you found a company that you love.
Yeah.
But you can use this to get your at-bats, to gain your experience, and then build out your referral network,
Yeah.
especially if you do a really good job, and then from there, move on.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Appreciate that.
So he's Kyle Johnson. He is with New American Funding. You can find him on LinkedIn. It's
Yeah.
the best way to look for the one and only Kyle Johnson, who actually also works at New American Funding. I'm Dustin Owen. The easiest way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. But I have to tell you, I had this producer extraordinaire. His name is John Coleman, and he forces me to be on Facebook, to be on LinkedIn, to be on Instagram, and even on TikTok. We are at The Loan Officer Podcast. Our YouTube channel is The Loan Officer Podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, basically anywhere you can listen to audio. We're there as well. And we have this really cool website that John Coleman and our friend Dennis Miller developed back in January of this year. It's called theloanofficerpodcast.com, or affectionately TLOPonline.com. We encourage you to please check it out because it is loaded with additional content, training materials, links to programs, products, and guides, and also links to industry news. Kyle, thank you so much. I'm going to let you get back to Disney, get back to your family. We appreciate you. Appreciate you being a friend of the show.
Yeah.
But that's all the time we have for them today, but we're going to catch them on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.